Now to our interview with the first guest of the day. I'm joined by the former Deputy Permanent Representative of Nigeria to the United Nations, Ambassador Usman Sarki, tonight to discussing the implications of President Bola Tinubu's economic diplomacy. Ambassador Sarki was also a one-time directing staff of National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies. Thank you so much for joining us again, sir.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to join you also. Thank you.
All right. So let's start with the concept of economic diplomacy. How significant is it for national development?
Well, it is very significant because the economy drives the national development program of any country. And you cannot develop the economy without the injection of finance, technology, managerial skills, and other partnerships that form the critical ingredients of development. And I think economic development, economic diplomacy is aimed at aggregating all those factors that cascade to create the critical mass required to develop a nation. Finance is one of these: industrialization, equipment, machinery, know-how in management, banking services, and so many things. So diplomacy actually encapsulates the totality of the framework in which actually development comes to a country.
Right. So the president has adopted this as part of efforts to revive the economy. So what's the implication of his economic diplomacy for the country?
Well, I think the president has the foresight to select the themes and also the strategy to engage with other countries and partners to attract investment to Nigeria. And I think it's also part of the renewed hope agenda and the 8-point agenda to focus on critical areas of significance to jumpstart the economy, if you will, in order to create the necessary conditions for industrialization, enhancement of manufacturing, value addition, and also tapping into the global value chain of trade, commerce, investment, finance, and so forth. So the president's personal drive is very, very important because he is now making the pitch on behalf of Nigeria at the highest political level of the country that Nigeria should be trusted, Nigeria should be taken into confidence, and then Nigeria, there is a new mindset, a new thinking in the country now that is elastic and flexible towards attracting foreign investors, creating partnerships, and offering opportunities to genuine players to come into the country to harness and tap into the bountiful resources that we have. So in this regard, the president actually is the number one salesperson, the salesman of the Nigerian condition. And secondly, constitutionally, he is the top diplomat. So what he is doing actually is discharging the duties of his office as befitting a conscientious office holder to make Nigeria attractive, to sell the country to the rest of the world, and assure our partners to come and engage with us on mutually beneficial basis in order to reap the benefits of the relationship that we are creating today. So it's in keeping with the demands of his office. Let me remind Nigerians that being president is not just a privilege, but also a great responsibility that requires discharging the functions of that office in various capacities, like maintenance of security, conduct of diplomacy, creating intercommunal harmony, religious harmony in the country, and also upholding the rule of law. So economic diplomacy is just one aspect of the top jobs that the president is expected to do and to deliver to the country.
Right. So as a diplomat, do you think Nigeria is in the best position to successfully pursue such strategy?
Well, yes, of course. Number one, the first consideration is this political system we are running. It's an open, democratic, free country where investments are protected by law and by the traditions of the business tradition and the climate of the country. Secondly, we are a country that is given to observing rule of law, both at the local, national level and at the international stage. So these two critical factors make it possible for any country that is willing to engage with us on mutually beneficial levels to come and consider investing or trading or undertaking any type of business with us without the apprehensions of certain collateral damages occurring in the relationship between us and them. So Nigeria, as Mr. President said, is open for business, and we are going to respect the sensitivities of all other partners if they come here genuinely to trade with us. So Nigeria is really ripe for engagement with all countries in terms of establishing mutual relationship towards advancing the global agenda of sustainable development, our regional priorities in creating employment, reducing poverty, and then harnessing our productive forces, our resources, for the improvement of the welfare and the well-being of our people, not only in Nigeria, but regionally. Because if you come from India, for instance, or UAE, or America, or Saudi Arabia, or anywhere to invest in Nigeria, you are actually investing in the ECOWAS economy of about 500 million people. So this is quite considerable. And then the resources here in Nigeria and the rest of West Africa are virtually limitless in terms of infusion into the creation of conditions that will be favorable for investors.
Right. So, Ambassador, when you take into cognizance some of the basic concepts of diplomacy, and particularly economic diplomacy, which are representation, negotiation, communication, and image management, how will you describe the way President Tinubu has pursued the policy so far?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. President Tinubu comes with a considerable pedigree in terms of private sector business dealings and management. He knows the importance of communication, that's first. He knows the importance of rules-based game in business, and he knows the importance of creating confidence in others while transacting in business. So he has already been primed, if you will, or prepared for this kind of work by his antecedents in the oil company, in the business world, and also in government when he was a governor. So he has the antecedents, he has the background to create this relationship and maintain it. By the way, his communication skills are excellent in terms of assuring people and making people feel comfortable with him and with the country that he represents. And on that basis, you can see in India, he was able to immediately went there. Within a matter of days, a commitment of about $14 billion was made by investors in India alone. And then on his way back, he stopped over at the United Arab Emirates, where he met with His Excellency President Mohammed Nahyan, where bin Zayed Nahyan.
On that for a minute, and that's the G20 summit and some of the highlights of that summit, particularly the deals the president struck with countries like India, Germany, Korea, and others to boost the economy. How beneficial will such deals be for Nigeria in the final analysis?
Well, the essence of diplomacy actually is to create opportunities, you know, be it in the political area, social, people to people, or economy. In this case, this encompasses almost all the angles of diplomacy: people to people contact, business contact, the economy, financing, investment, and travels. So what this translates into is, number one, is actually to tell the world that Nigeria is ready and open for business. And we are in a new dispensation where we understand the rules of the game and that the country is ready, both in the normative field, that is in terms of legal alignment of interests of the partners and us, and also in the objective areas of availability of the space to come and do business in Nigeria, whether in the area of agriculture and livestock, whether in the area of infrastructure like airports and rail lines and seaports, or in mining, as the case may be, or in power and energy, oil and gas. So the importance of this engagement is actually to renew confidence in those countries, in Nigeria, and also to provide the opportunity for Nigerian business people to meet their counterparts from other countries like Germany, Korea, India, the United States, Canada, Italy, Saudi Arabia, UAE, to exchange notes and also to inform each other about opportunities that are available in Nigeria and in their own countries, and to create the conditions for exchange of views, for them to come over here, to engage with us, both at the subnational level, that is at the state level, and at the federal level, to learn what can be achieved through this sort of engagement. So what Mr. President did was actually to establish the rapport that is necessary between us and the rest of the world, to take us into their confidence, as I said earlier, and also to note that there is a new person in charge in the country who understands the rules of the game and who wants them to come here and deal with us on mutually beneficial basis. So diplomacy here is being deployed as a tool to really attract investment and partnerships into Nigeria, and also to open up the markets of the world for Nigerian manufacturers, products, goods, and services. So we are looking at short term in terms of creating confidence, and the medium and long term in terms of bringing investments and subsequently making Nigeria a top economy in the world, among the top 20 possibly. Now we are, I think, around the top 35 or thereabout. We want to be in the top 20. And with the policy being driven by President Bola Tinubu right now, I think, before the next 4 years or 5 years, we can be in the top 20 if we organize our policies, our laws, and structures. And if we resolve the issue of power in Nigeria, we can be in the top 20, I guarantee you.
Right. So this meeting with the UAE on lifting of visa ban on Nigerians, why do we need to woo the UAE in this regard?
Well, the signal is not only UAE, it goes beyond the UAE. Virtually all countries have issues with Nigeria in the area of visa, unfortunately, because of the attitude of some segments of this country, people who go there, commit atrocities, crimes, and other things. So the perception is that all of us have been classified into that group of miscreants who really do not respect the laws of other countries. So issuance of visa became a big problem. Virtually all countries impose some subtle and not so subtle restrictions on Nigerians. So resolving the UAE issue is actually a signal to other countries to be mindful of the new dispensation in the country, that we are not going to allow the attitudes and behavior. All boils down to rule of law and respecting commitments and agreements. And I think the president has done a sterling job here to go within a matter of hours. He was not even there on a state visit or on a dedicated bilateral visit. It was just a stopover. And we found it propitious to raise these issues. And I think, what this translates into is the respect and esteem in which our president is held by other countries and other governments. Nigerians should need to take very, very good, very careful note of that. That presidents, when they enjoy the respect and esteem of other countries, can achieve a lot. So at home, we should also show the same deference and respect to our presidents, and not at every opportunity to be seen to be intemperate in our consideration of the presidents, or in terms of dealing with them on the basis of disrespect. We have to respect the office of the president. We have to respect the person of the president in order to add to his dignity whereby others outside will also treat that person and that office with have done at the G20 meeting. This is very, very important. It's not only symbolic, but actually it's a concrete manifestation of the growth in stature of our country, symbolized by the president.
All right, Ambassador, I would like you to expatiate on that, but taking it from this angle, since deals like these require mutual benefit and commitment, what should Nigeria do to bring these efforts to fruition?
Well, I think, in the first place, we have to be very serious about governance. Governance is not simply coming into office, whether elected or appointed, to enjoy the privileges of that office and then leave. No. Governance is actually a commitment, a serious commitment to build the institution of the state, of the country and the government, and to uphold the rule of law, and to meet commitments made and given to other parties and partners. So governance is a holistic approach based on respectability, on commitment, and on guarantees that you are not going to change horses in the middle of the stream. In this regard, we in Nigeria must really look at our laws. Bilateral agreements, when we enter them, we should meet them faithfully. Our laws should be so transparent and genuine in terms of giving comfort to other partners and other parties to deal with us on the basis of transparency and objectivity. And also, the machinery of government in Nigeria must respond to policies like opening the doors for investment and also eschewing and fighting corruption. Having said that, it is very important that our infrastructure in Nigeria must be quickly brought up to standard, up to global levels. Our airports, our seaports, our rail lines and roads. And then thirdly, we must enhance security in this country. Without security, you cannot successfully ask foreigners to come and do business or to settle in this country. Security must be looked at as a factor of national development. It is very important. Then fourthly, we have to look at governance at the subnational level, because every foreign venture, when it is established in Nigeria, will be established in the 36 states and the federal capital somewhere. So the federal government actually enables and enhances approaches to Nigeria. But the final beneficiary will be the states and local governments, where projects, industries, factories, manufacturing, etc. will be established. So keying in or carrying on board the subnational levels are very critical, very important. Right. So we must have complementarity of policy between state and federal governments in terms of enhancing the profile of the country and convincing anybody dealing with us that we are a serious nation. Our politics, our National Assembly, our ministries and ministers, they must now really see the president as the figure who gives the necessary drumbeat to signal the march of the country towards greater heights. And we must emulate his example by being committed, by being serious, and by being law-abiding.
Right. So moving forward, what other areas of mutual interest and investments do you want the president to focus on?
Well, first of all, I would like Mr. President to focus on the energy area, particularly development of new investment into the oil and gas sector. Because no matter how we look at the issues of global climate change and energy transition, the world cannot do without petroleum and gas for the time being, especially natural gas. So new investment, opening of new fields will be critical to the welfare of our economy. Secondly, Mr. President should really set up a team to generate policies and programs towards improving the electricity generation in this country in the next 2 years. If Egypt, Iran, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Brazil, Venezuela could do that, why can't Nigeria do it? I think we need to aggregate the collective energy and will of this country to overcome this existential problem of lack of electric power. Thirdly, issue of security is very critical. The armed forces, the police force, and all other security and intelligence agencies must be brought up to scratch in terms of training, equipment, and intelligence to deal decisively with national security issues. And the fourth area I would urge Mr. President to really look at seriously is developing the rural areas in Nigeria. Our rural areas have been abandoned for the last 50 years or so. That is the critical problem where poverty is, where insecurity is, and where unemployment is. If we are able to tackle rural development collectively and comprehensively, we will now diversify opportunities in the country, create the critical mass necessary for moving up our people out of poverty and establishing conditions for rapid economic growth. So a comprehensive rural development scheme or program is what I can recommend for Mr. President, among other things. Then infrastructure, our ports, they need to be really rewired, whereby a container ship can be discharged within 48 hours. At least that is not too much to ask. And also decongestion of the roads from our ports into the hinterland, and also creating rail links across the regions in this country are very necessary towards modernization. If we look at China today, China focused so much on creating transport networks in the country that today, virtually, they are really stunning the world in terms of the advancement they have made in rail, road, air, and sea transport. We can do the same in terms of collaboration and opening up spaces in this country. 927,000 square kilometers of land is not a small piece of real estate. And you cannot develop that country without opening up the interior, the coastal areas, and all nooks and crannies of the country, linking them up by rail, by road, and by air and sea, in order to maximize the economic productivity of the country.
Right. Thank you so much, Ambassador Usman Sarki, former Deputy Permanent Representative of Nigeria to the United Nations. Thank you so much for joining us on Politics Tonight.
It's a great pleasure.
Thank you for your time and expertise. Thank you so much.